Hey guys, this is Awesome John 22 coming today with another review, and today, finally, we are taking a look at the first part of Menasor. Today we are taking a look at his arms, where I know I said a lot over the course of my Superion reviews, which are still incomplete, by the way, we'll get to that later, that I preferred to go with the official configurations for the characters, but when it comes to Menasor, I simply cannot use off-road here as a leg. I use him as the left arm, so that's how we're going to be taking a look at him today. And here we have off-road next to the Wave 1 figure drag strip, who we've already seen a bit of in our Superion reviews, because we were substituting him for one of Superion's arms, which is why Superion is not quite finished as a review topic, but we'll get to that in a few minutes, because as we know, we do not start with these guys in robot mode, we start with them in vehicle mode. So let's go ahead and get them transformed up and take a look at said vehicle modes. You can see here drag strip is of course this Formula 1 racer style vehicle, as he has always been. I'm really liking the color scheme on this. You've got this dark goldenrod yellow and this kind of maroon red. Great topograph Decepticon symbol. You can actually see there's a little steering wheel molded into his cockpit, or I guess whatever you would call a driver's seat on a race car. I don't know if it's actually a cockpit or not. You can see great silver detail there, just silver detail on his rims. Really fantastic looking figure. Rolls pretty great, though the wheels are a little high up into the vehicle, so this front end, if it does come loose at all, it will scrape against this chest bit here, which granted isn't a huge problem because there's no paint on it, but still it is a slight problem, so that there is that to be careful about. You can take his foot weapon and kind of bring this down to brace it, and then take this and peg it in to the top of the vehicle, and gives him kind of a back-mounted whatever that is kind of gun. And he does have this little sword. You can take it, pop it in there. Now he can kind of strafe people, slice them up with his weapon. And it's tenuous, of course. All these weapons, their interaction with the vehicle modes are pretty tenuous, but it is something. But still, I like to keep him just in this basic car form. I like that a lot better. I like off-road a lot better, and it's in his basic car form as well. And I've heard a lot of people complaining about this figure, and I don't see the reason. I think people have been complaining about it because there's talk of turning this guy into an updated version of Classics Ironhide, and if that happens, I'm fine with it. I actually am really enjoying this guy so far. He is, of course, the new character, the new guy, because that seems to be a thing. Each of these combiner teams will have a character that didn't appear in the G1 cartoon and is new to this toy line. And for the Stunticons, that would be Off-Road here, who, from his bio, is actually quite a brutal character, and I think that's actually pretty cool. He does, of course, come with a foot gun, which doesn't really get a good place to attach in this mode. I guess you can attach it to the side, but it's kind of silly, so I don't even use it in this mode. I don't mind this, though. This is actually pretty cool. He gets this little axe that he can attach to the side, and I mean, now he's got an axe attached to his side. That's pretty badass. You can see good molded detail, good paint, silver paint all through the front end. Nothing on the back end, of course. He's got these really cool red details on the sides, silver painted rims, and this cool glossy red in the windshields. Very nifty. Great, good color on him too. I like this gunmetal gray color, even though it is just the molded plastic color. And overall, I like him a lot. He's quite a bit shorter than Dragstrip. He's also he's about the same height, but overall he's got more upward bulk, because Dragstrip kind of tapers off. So overall, not a terrible size for a deluxe, and I think he looks pretty good. So let's actually start transformation off with Off-Road. Move him out of the way completely. It's simple. All these guys are really simple. What we're going to do is we're going to take this section, just lower it down, and we're going to take this, pop it out, and bring it, accordion it out like so. Bring these up, split them, and just peg them into place like so on both sides. Next we're going to come here, bring this entire section back, then rotate up his arms like so, and then just bring this down and it rests. You can see it kind of clips in like so and rests on his back, and it gives him quite a backpack. It's a very pronounced backpack. Actually bring it into frame and show you. You can see, but it doesn't affect his stability at all, and I don't mind it. For whatever reason, I don't mind it. Maybe it's because Huffer is one of my favorite old designs, and he did kind of the same thing with the big boxy backpack around his head, but I really don't mind this. I think it actually looks really cool, and you can see here in his robot mode he gets a fantastic head sculpt, though I think the actual face color could probably be a little bit better. No light piping in his head, but he does get these really nice bright red optics, and that metallic red from his windshields carries over into his chest here, where he gets a topographed Autobot symbol, and he gets this cool, it's not quite Allspark blue, but it's almost Allspark blue, but it's got a bit more of a teal color to it, and I think ends up working a lot better. Though I'm not sure if it really works as well as it could, considering his weapon color is this bright purple. I don't understand if you're gonna give him a kind of a teal, turquoisey secondary color, why not make his weapon the same color? I don't quite get it. But it still works pretty well, and he gets this really cool hatchet in his robot mode. Looks pretty nice, and of course he can carry his 4-barrel shotgun foot weapon in his offhand like so. And I don't know, something about that just works for me. I just really enjoy this robot mode a lot. I can't even place why. He does get these cool silver details in the knees that I just now noticed. In terms of articulation, full rotation at the shoulder. If you can get past this wheel here, he does have full shoulder movement, 90-degree bend at elbow, and a full rotation above the elbow. His head is on a ball joint. It's a bit limited, but it does give him a little bit of up and down movement and a full 360 exorcist twist. He can do, if I don't, pop his legs off in the process, he can do a full 360 at the waist, but it's one of those off-center waist joints, so I don't actually get to count it, unfortunately. But he does have a full range of motion in his legs, and overall is at least on par with other modern deluxes, and I think at the end of the day ends up looking really nice. I mentioned I prefer this guy as an arm for a Menasor, so what I'm going to do first is take a look at him as a leg and show you how that looks. And really it's pretty simple. You really just take him and put him back into vehicle mode. So what we're going to do is we're going to lower his arms back down, and then we're going to open this up, accordion it up into place, which can be kind of annoying because his knees always want to bend when you try to do that. Make sure the arms are lined up, bring it up, and then the only thing that we will not undo is this section here. We'll leave it forward, and then take his foot gun, fold out the heel, plug it in, and then rotate around the connector port, and there you have his foot mode. And I just don't like it. I don't feel like it brings enough new detail to the table to be interesting, and it doesn't look good next to the other leg, which I will probably talk about more in my review of Menasor, but I'm not really sure yet. We'll see when we get there. We'll see. Now, I much rather prefer his arm mode, so let's go ahead and get that going. We'll go from vehicle mode just because it's a bit easier. We'll take this and we'll just accordion it back out like we did taking him to robot mode. The legs do tend to pop apart, even though I do try to keep them together during the transformation. They do tend to pop apart just because of the hip shape. It's a little frustrating, but nothing you can't work around. Transformation on these guys is it's pretty simple. Bring that out. What I like to do with his arms, because his arms, geez, 1 second, this isn't quite pegged in right. There we go, much better. There's a lot of things you can do with his arms. What I like to do is I like to just bring them up like so. Bring them up into place for robot mode. And just kind of set them in there. And then bring these panels up to block them from view. And what that does, if I can actually get it to rest the way I want it to rest. There we go. What that does is it leaves a port on the top for us to store his weapon in combined mode. And it's not a perfect solution, but I think it works out fairly well. Next, of course, we're going to take his foot weapon, and in this mode we are going to bring out the fingers, and then bring the thumb into place, and peg it into exactly the same spot, and now you have an arm, which doesn't quite fit in frame. There we go. And I like it. It's got the blue here, adding something to the design. You can see these flared areas. You got the little weapon on the top, which could be a shoulder-mounted gun. I just think it looks infinitely better than the foot mode, and it has these exposed wheels sitting. You can see them from the front of the combined robot, which, well, let's get into drag strip, and I will show off why I think that's an important detail. We'll get to it in a minute. Drag strip's transformation is perhaps even easier than off-road's. We just take his arms, fold them up, take this section, bring it back, rotate it around, and then peg it into his back like so, which will, of course, expose his head. Next, we actually slide his legs down, rotate them at the waist, and split them. Finally, we will come under here and fold out both of his fists. And he is a spindly little guy, and I really like him. I like him a lot. He doesn't get any real, new colors in this mode. He's still that goldenrod yellow and that maroon, but the yellow is a lot more prominent here than it was in the vehicle mode. And he gets this kind of sky blue color on his face sculpt, which is really nice. I like his face sculpt. I don't like the sculpt of it quite as much as off-roads, but I definitely like the color scheme of it better. And it certainly speaks drag strip to me. He's got these really cool silver vents in his arms, nice topographed Decepticon symbol, full range of motion, of course, at the ball joints on his shoulders, 90 degree, well, slightly more than 90 degree, in fact, bend at his arms, rotation at his arm, full range of motion in his hips, and of course he does rotate, and because the rotation is actually centered, I can count it, so he actually has waist articulation. And of course, ball jointed head that rotates a full 360, doing the Exorcist twist. Just a very nice figure all around. The joints are really tight on this guy too. Even these joints that are basically little more than just these 90 degree pin hinge joints that you see on figures all the time, even those joints are really tight and really well put together. His knees are really tight and really well put together, despite the fact he has no ratchets in him at all. It's just very, very cool. He does have his knife, which he can hold, and his foot weapon, which he can hold. I don't know what this weapon is supposed to be, though. It doesn't really look like anything to me, so I typically don't I can get it out of his hand, because even his hands are tight and very useful for holding things. There's no chance of him dropping his weapons, is my point. I don't typically pose him with it because I just don't know what it's supposed to be. If someone can tell me what it's supposed to be, please do. I'm really curious about it. But he looks really nice. I really like him. And I don't understand people's complaints with Off-Road's backpack when he has just as much of a backpack. Maybe it's because it's not sitting as high, but people keep talking about how they love Drag Strip, but they don't like Off-Road, and I just don't understand it. Because I think I like them pretty much equally. I think they're both really good figures. I just don't get it. But anyway, Drag Strip. He has a foot mode. It's actually very similar to Off-Road's foot mode. You bring this like so. Rotate this forward. And rotate this up like so. I guess technically you would want to rotate the face around so that it doesn't show. And then you just take his arms, fold that in, and then bring them down into their vehicle mode position. We'll do that on both sides, of course. Then you take his foot weapon and you plug it in, and it's a foot. I think it's a decent looking foot. In fact, I like it a lot better than Off-Road's foot mode. But his head is right there, and you can see it, and you can technically see it in his arm mode as well, but it's not as prominent, and it's the primary reason why I don't like the foot mode. I mean, it's sitting right there, and it's obvious what it's supposed to be. For his arm mode, we'll actually just go straight from this. We're going to split this all up again, pull his legs out again, and rotate this whole assembly forward like so. And then once again, there's a lot of things you can do with the arms. What I personally like to do is take them like so, and then fold them like so that they make this kind of, I don't know, arch looking thing here. I think it looks pretty nice. This rotates down. Then you can kind of pose this however you want. You can actually probably lower, yeah, you can lower these down too, which I think actually looks pretty nice. And he makes a good arm, and as you can see, bringing Off-Road in here for a second, you can see there's a similar flare to the design up here. You have the front end of the car sitting here. You have these exposed wheels pointing forward, and that's why I like Off-Road better as an arm. They just have a similar enough aesthetic that it adds an extra degree of symmetry going from one to the other. Of course, he is missing a hand. We do have to take his foot gun and put it into hand mode, like so, and plug it in, and there he is as an arm, and I like it a lot. He has those really stiff knees, which give him a really stiff elbow in arm mode. His waist is really stiff, which makes this really stiff. It makes him a good arm for holding stuff, and he's going to be the arm that holds the sword in combined mode. So yeah, definitely a plus. I just really like it. I like these arms. They're good arms. They're probably a little bit better than Superion's arms, which is really nice, and it makes it even more of a shame that Menasor's legs are probably a lot worse than Superion's legs. But we will get to that next time. Guys, that is about it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, because I certainly enjoyed making it. I'm just going to leave him sitting there in arm mode. Why not? If you enjoyed the video, if you didn't enjoy the video, whatever, please help me out, like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below if you feel so inclined. In the description down below, you'll find links to all the other things I'm working on, including a link to my collection video. Check that out, and if you see anything in it that you'd like me to review, let me know, and I will see what I can do. Either way, this has been Awesome John 22, and I will talk to you guys later in part 2 of Menasor.